on today's menu? Bon appetit! Welcome back to Tools and Track. So, headlights and indicator modules all to go onto a chassis with a removable bracket. That doesn't sound particularly difficult, does it? And yet, it probably will be. First steps first, our genuine carbon fibre effect pods. Need to make sure these are going to fit the lamps and not foul. I was about to start cursing it there, but I forgot half the stuff for the lamp. Right, so the lamp we need to be quite cautious of. As you can see, this all locks into place with a square drive, and that obviously allows us to adjust it and kind of keep it in place. This guy is going to be the key to most of the fabrication today, assuming this all fits. Right, well, that looks alright, doesn't it? The other good part about this is that this little module more or less covers all this excess thread, which is handy. So, what I need to do now is work out how to get all of this on a bracket that attaches to a car. Good start though. This is unusual. Now, I know that the simple and like really minge baggy solution to this would be to make the corner brackets out of corner shaped steel. However, now I love a shortcut as much as the next guy, but if you look very, very closely at this angle iron, you'll see inside the middle there's a radius. It doesn't come in perfectly square. And the problem with this radius is, if I was to put this radius against the edge of the square tube box section, and I know the square tube box section does have an amount of radius on it, it's probably not quite as severe as this. If I put it there, it's going to start doing this. It's not going to mate very well. So, without any other way to put it, we're going to have to make this from scratch. So that's the brackets made that are going to hold this pedestal idea onto the car. But before I go any further, we'll need to consider where these headlights need to sit. And for that, we need to go and consult the IVA manual. Welcome to the fun zone. This is where I do all my editing. And moving forward for the low cost, this is where we're going to have to do a fair few whiteboard things, because I'm going to have to start referring to the IVA quite a lot. And the problem with that is, it is a 316 page manual, and I've got no real way of putting it up on the board. Therefore, let's just do it on the computer. The first thing, if we're doing headlights, is we need to make sure that whatever we're putting in place is going to be IVA compliant. Yay, exciting, fun. But if I don't, I'm not going to be able to drive the car on the road. So, pays to do the lip service. But as you're joining me and we're looking at how to build the car, here's the criteria you need for the headlights. Right, here's our IVA manual. You can see page 1 looks lovely. They've got a nice new car on it. That's where the excitement ends. From here on in, it's pretty dry. So what we're looking for here is headlamps, and that's on section 25. So for all I bash this, the manual is actually pretty clear cut. You don't really have much in the way of ambiguity, and if there's any amendments or any specific things, there's lots of tables and whatnot. It makes it pretty easy, I'm not going to lie. So what they'll do is they'll tell you in the manual how they're going to inspect it, and they're going to tell you the standard that it has to meet. So the method of inspection for headlamps: visual inspection that they're all fitted, operation colour, number and correct positioning. So that's your first clue. There's other notes that they've added in over the years, for example the conversion to HID headlamps, blah blah blah. We don't really get into that because this thing's frankly never going to get driven at night, so the chances of reading headlights are pretty slim. Anyway, the required standard is as follows. All obligatory and operational headlamps must be fitted as matched pairs. That's fine, we've got a matched pair. They must be operational, that's pretty fucking standard frankly. Fitted in the correct orientation as would be on an approved vehicle, side by side. They must emit a white light, yep, that's easy, bulbs. When on dipped or main beam, they must emit sufficient light to be able to illuminate the road in front of the vehicle, that's pretty much a given. Correct number must be fitted in table 1. Now we'll get to this, there's always a table below that gives you additional data. There must be a telltale when on main beam. That's further down the line for us, that's electronics, but we'll cover it. Headlamp cleaning systems and levelling devices, we're going to have none of that. headlamp aim. These are fully adjustable, so we won't have to worry about that. The rest of it's about import British American nonsense. We've got European dipped headlamp, British American headlamp. This tells you all about the aims and what you've got to achieve. Let's get into the guts of it, right? Dipped beam, table 1. Dipped beam headlamp, minimum 2, maximum 2. No real ambiguity there, we're going to need 2. Application is mandatory. These tables will have optional sections in them, and it's actually worth considering some of the optional parts because it does help your car be that little bit safer. Colour must be white, cool. Maximum distance from the side. So if you imagine this is the two sides of the cars, the distance inwards can be a maximum of 400mm. And that's good to note because we actually have the ability on these pedestals to set where the lights will sit to the outside of the vehicle. The temptation for me would be put it right into the nose and make it look as compact as possible. In reality, we might not get away with that depending on the track of the front wishbones. So I'm going to have to check that there is 400mm between the outside of the wheel to the outside of the headlamps. Maximum height from the ground, 1.2 metres. I don't think the car is 1.2 metres. I'm not going to get too stressed about that. However, the minimum height from the ground must be 500mm. I don't think we'll struggle with 500mm from the absolute base. I'm going to check it nonetheless. Angles of visibility, 45 degrees out, 10 degrees in, 15 degrees up and 10 degrees down. That's pretty much set by the headlamp. Not a lot I can do to change this, but we'll give it a wee check anyway. The main beam headlamp, minimum 2, maximum 4. What does that mean? Well, we can add another 2 additional lights for the main beams to come on, like your fog lights you used to get in old cars. Probably not going to need it though. As for the position and whatnot, absolutely no regulations, but as our main beam and dip beam is integral to one headlamp, we're going to be sitting with the same kit. Scrolling down, we've got annexes, headlamp sources, blah blah blah, tungsten halogen, common bulbs to use. That's fine. HIDs we're not going to be looking at. LEDs, interesting. We've now put LEDs in. I didn't think these were IE compatible. It's been a while since I've looked, obviously, at the MOT standard. But as long as it's got an EX marking, it's good. Well, times change, eh? Once you get to the bottom of it, you'll see the revisions, why they've revised it. And the last page being left intentionally blank means we have completed this section of the IDA. So with that in mind, let's get back to the workshop. Remember how I said we were done with the building? That was clearly an absolute lie. Okay, that's the first pedestal done. I'm quite happy with the heights and where this thing sits. What I now need to do is the second pedestal. Now, this might seem particularly anal, but I have to make sure these are identical. And I've done this before in the past and went, it's roughly right. But a matched pair that are symmetrical but not identical are quite tricky. And obviously, if that isn't right, headlights are going to sit like not good. This is something that I've kind of just bodged before, but this time it needs to be right. we now have eyes. I guess that's about the best way to put it. This is more of a milestone for me than you may think, and I'll tell you why. You see, projects like this need to get that character going on, you know, like it's starting to have a wee face coming together, and that's when it starts to become a car. It's not just like a pile of steel, it's getting its own little form coming together. So I'm happy, this is a big milestone. Everyone run up the side of the screen. Thanks for your support. Patreon.com/toolsandtrack if you want to know what that's about. Massive support, great help. If you can do so, please do. If you can't, just like, subscribe, bell, all that jazz, because it's the only way we grow. And until next week, guys, drive safe.